Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man of the Silver Mountain and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about something that relates to several of my other videos, and that is the idea of power. And if you've become a strong person, if you've got a good appreciation of yourself and so on and so forth, then usually that comes with power. People see strength coming with power, and I would like to first off point out that there are, at least to me, a couple of points in between the being strong and the having of power. And I'm not necessarily talking like power over people or power in regards to controlling countries or anything of that magnitude. I mean, obviously this could play into that, but what I'm talking about more specifically is the way that you can control yourself and the way that you have power over your own life and in and of yourself to get what you want. And so the first thing is I just want to talk about the gap in between strength and power, and the fact that you've got with strength, then you have the capacity to control your environment and yourself, at which point then that gives you choice, and that choice, that ability to choose and decide and take in all of the various options and then choose, move towards the one that fits best for you. That is power. That is the element of the control and presence that you can gain through having strength to begin with. And so what makes up strength? Well, in this particular instance, I'll link these down in the description, but I've already done videos on what makes a strong person with the 3 R's, and I've done videos on all of the R's individually. I'm sure I'll get back onto those and do even more on them in the future. But they're sat there. And then I've also done the don't sweat the small stuff, because obviously that's, if you're wasting time and energy on just complaining, then all that's doing is draining what strength that you've managed to generate for yourself. And it also displays a lack of resilience in regards to the 3 R's. And then the other thing is introspection, being able to be aware of who you are, what you are, and monitor that to the extent that if you can monitor it, then you can work out kind of how substantial you feel, what strengths you actually have, and how you can utilize those. And how you can act through those patterns and behaviors and things like that to then use the strength that you've developed to achieve things. But as said, I'll leave my videos on all of those things down in the description there. But there are a few other points that I would like to just go over in this video, just to outline that once you've got strength and once you've started making those decisions and have control of yourself and all those along that pattern, the power, there are still things that will try and take it away from you. There will be other people that try and undermine you. There will be things that infringe upon it, and that is something that you don't want to give away. That is something that you don't want to lose, or something that you want to start backstepping on after you've achieved those things. And so I've got just a couple of points here as to, along with everything else from those other videos that I'll link down below, all of those things plus these allow you to retain the strength and the agency that you develop. And the first thing that I want to touch on is boundaries, because obviously you may very well be strong, but there'll always be something that tries to infringe on your space, be that physical space, be that mental space, be that emotional space of some description. But having some kind of healthy boundary, having the capacity to control that very intimate space around you. A strong army still needs a fortress to retreat to in the worst case scenarios, in the worst possible situations, to retain what power and presence they have. And as a result, like, instead of wasting your time on blaming people or allowing people to force their way in and take control over you, you need to make sure that the boundaries that you have are in place, so to the extent that, you know, as I say in my video on responsibility, you need to know what's yours and what's theirs. You need to know where that divide is, and you need to hold that divide. You know, you can't give in to people, and I realise that sometimes, especially when it comes to things like romance, or when you hope for things in a job and stuff like that, it's quite easy to give in to those people to one extent or another, just because you want something in return and you hope you're going to get it as a result of giving. But, you know, there's no point in doing that if then all they do is start taking. Yeah, there's no that boundary needs to be established. It needs to be held, and you need to know where it is. You know, there's no point in trying to hold a boundary that you can't see over the horizon. You need to be able to monitor yourself and monitor your surroundings, and know where they are. Because if you don't do this, then, as said, people will take advantage. People will look for ways to get more from you with giving less, and that's because they don't, you know, they're in the same situation as you are. They're not. It's not because they're necessarily bad people or anything like that. It's just the fact that they're looking out for themselves, and maybe their boundaries are wider than yours, and their boundaries do not include things like overstepping on someone else to get to their next thing. You know, there is an element of ruthlessness in regards to some people, and you need to be aware of that, and you need to have boundaries set so that when those people come to you, you have a way of holding your ground against them. The next thing that I'd talk about, second point, would be, thank you phone, would be practicing forgiveness, because again, with the kind of not complaining and the not allowing people to step over you, you don't want to be wasting all of your time on negative energy and negative emotions in regards to someone else or something else that has done something to you. You know, the amount of energy that goes into holding a grudge or trying to punish someone because they did something bad to you, it's a waste of time, it's a waste of energy. You know, the best way to defeat an opponent is to ignore them and outlast them. You know, do not let them encroach on you when they're not even there, because that's what a grudge is. They've got to you in such a substantial way that you just can't give up that negativity, that emotion. You can't stop focusing on them and what they did, in which case, even if you win in a physical sense, they've won in the long run because they've dominated you outside of the time that they're even there. You know, if they cause you a negative, deal with it in the moment and then move on, because, you know, be aware of it for the future. Don't completely forgive. You know, obviously if someone has screwed you over in the past and then you have to interact with them again, be aware that they've screwed you over in the past. Make informed decisions on your next set of actions, but don't focus on the negativity. Don't you know, it's not saying that a person has done something good or that it's okay that they did a thing just because you stop caring, just because you let it go, just because you move on. That shows that you're being healthy and they're still a dick. There's no two ways about that. And as a result, you know, if you're letting go of the hurt and the negativity and the anger and all of those things, or at least funneling them into something more constructive than holding a grudge and dwelling on it, then you're going to achieve more, you're going to be happier, you're going to ignore them, they're going to be the defeated opponent once you have stepped over them to get to your next big grand achievement that will just fly in the face of everything that they did to you. Yeah? The best way to overcome, the best way to win is to outlast and then move along from. Yeah? Any opponent, any issue in life that comes up against you and you're able to weather it, step up your game a little bit to overcome it and then keep going, is a much better success than something that you beat and then all you feel is this grudge and this resentment for that other person for causing you that obstacle in the first place. But yeah, the next thing that I've got got to say is you have to avoid making yourself into a victim. And this is something that I see an awful lot more, especially amongst young people, especially amongst individuals who have a very strong attachment to certain ideologies. And you need to make sure that you're not making yourself into a victim. It's not someone has made you do it, it's you chose to do it yourself, because they have no control over you. The only person who does have control over you is yourself. You know, they cannot psychically affect your emotions or twist your emotions to make you feel or act in a way. That's all on you. It's all in your head. It's all for you to decide. Yeah? If someone comes to you and asks you to work extra hours, then fair enough, it might not be something you can avoid, but realise that if you do have to make an excuse that could otherwise make you sound like a victim, oh, I have to work X number of hours this week, oh, I had no choice but to say yes. Why did you have no choice but to say yes? Did you actually have a choice? Because in my experience, yes, a couple of times in my career I've had to work very long weeks, as an example, and I've not been able to say no simply because if I had said no, I would have got into trouble because they had invoked the needs of the business clause in my contract, and as a result, I had to go and do it by contract, or I would have been screwed. In which case, you know, I'm not a victim. It could have happened to anybody. I just happened to have been on a contract that meant that that was a thing that happened, and I had signed that contract. It's still my fault for signing it, but then again, also it was my job. It was all things that I'd agreed to do, and it was all on me. You know, saying they asked me to work and I couldn't say no because I had signed the contract, you know, that still makes it on me. Yeah, it sucks that I would have had to go in and do it, but it's still my decision to do. You cannot just excuse yourself and drop things on other people or on other instances unless you've got a good reason for it. You know, unless you've got the evidence to back up what you're saying, you know, then to one extent or another, then you're only going to end up in problems later on when you start getting called on it, and when more evidence is presented as part of, you know, it's like lying. Eventually you're going to get found out if you always make yourself into a victim, sometimes justified, but there still needs to be that reinforcement of that with some fact, and it usually comes down to something that you've decided to do. Granted, rare happenstances happen, people get into bad situations, people are victims, but the thing is, there are a lot of people nowadays who will come out and say that they are a victim of everything under the sun, so that they get the advantage of being a victim and being treated better, when all that does is devalue the people who have actually had experienced hardship, suffered, and so on and so forth. So you need to make sure that to retain your power, you can't use victimhood. You know, if you're going to become some kind of cry bully, or if you're going to try and become a professional victim to survive off other people's sympathy, that's fine, but as soon as their sympathy dries up, as soon as they no longer empathise with you, then you're gone. That you crumble and you melt away, and there's nothing else that you can do to prevent that from happening. So don't do it. Be the powerful one. Stand on the top of your personal mountain after each time you've succeeded beating one of your dragons, or succeeding at a goal, or whatever it is that you want to do, you want to describe it as. You get to the top of that top point, and you stand proud and you stand strong. And you show that to people, because there's no two ways then that they can start trying to pull you down, because you have reached the top of that mountain and they're just there at the bottom having a look up at you. Yeah, there's nothing that they can do to you. There are plenty of things you can do to yourself, but there's nothing that they can do to you to bring you down. There's no situation that can necessarily take those things away from you once you've achieved them. And as a result, yes, being a victim, it does seem like an easy way out for an awful lot of people. It does seem really, really in line with an awful lot of ideologies. But at the same time, it's not true. You have agency, you have power. If you're complaining that you're a victim as a result of your religious affiliation, well, guess what? All of the religions on the planet believe that God, to one extent or another, gave you free will, but guidelines. That free will still means that it's your fault if you get screwed over. For one reason or another, you've still got that free will, go use it. If it's because of your political ideology or your political affiliation, then again, realise that you're probably part of a system where there are numerous other people that don't even have representatives that they can align to. In which case, if you have a political alignment that you can attribute yourself to, and so on and so forth, good for you. Well done. You're not a victim, you're actually being represented by someone. if it's because of any other political issue, gender politics, racial politics, whatever, again, don't be a victim, because a victim doesn't achieve things, they get handouts. They don't get anything, they get catered to. Yeah? As in, they don't move steps forward to succeed in what they're complaining about. All they do is they get catered to keep them around, because people feel sorry for you. Don't let people feel sorry for you. Be awesome, be amazing, lead by example, stand strong and get the shit done, because otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. Your ideology is going to eventually crumble or break down under the scrutiny that it gains, and as a result there's no two ways about it. You're toast. Your way of life is toast. You're not going to be able to sustain yourself after that. But yeah, and then these last two are somewhat connected. So first off, make your self-worth dependent on you and what you prove to yourself. Don't let it be dependent on other people's validation or on other people's opinions, because quite frankly, all that means is that all you need to do is piss off one person, upset one group of people, stand out to one specific area of the populace, and you lose all self-worth. They take it from you. But self-worth, I mean, it's in the title. It's self. It's all about you. It's inside you. In which case, it's got nothing to do with other people. Do your thing, prove it to yourself, and then, hold those in a little vault in the back of your head where you know that is who you are and what you do, and that you are worthwhile because of X, Y, and Z to you, because that's all that matters. If you are doing something that makes you happy and makes you proud of yourself and makes you a better, stronger person in your own eyes, then go ahead. Granted, sometimes that does mean that you will come up against an awful lot of negativity from the people around you. Yeah, sometimes that may put your life at risk. Sometimes that's where you put other people's lives at risk, and that is the one instance in particular that I feel is not okay. Because that is your self, what's inside you, affecting other people's selves, which is what's inside them, and that's not okay. The same way that it shouldn't be affecting you, you shouldn't be affecting them. Yeah, and granted, sometimes they decide to let you affect them, but that's not your problem. But if you, from your own self-worth and the things that you believe are good about yourself, then walk into a filled train station with a bomb in your shoe and let it off, and that makes, in that moment before you're gone as well as all of those other people are gone, that makes you feel good about yourself, then quite frankly that's where the line has to be drawn. Yeah, because you're doing something sick and just disgusting. Because you are not just because you're wiping out all of those other people, but you're using the demolishing of someone else's self-worth to feed your own, and that's just revolting. It should all be in you, all be about you. Don't let any religious book, any political figure, or anything else tell you or define your internal workings that way, because all it does is lead to insanity and harm, and there's no point to it. But as a result, the last point is you need to be willing to stand out. You need to be willing to stand alone, and this is the thing. Self-doubt and fear, they have their places. They're warning mechanisms. They're things to keep you alive. They're things to keep you safe. But the thing is, sometimes that does lead you to try and kind of chameleon yourself against the wall and just hide from it all. And especially people who have an awful lot more self-doubt or an awful lot of fear or overthink things, I'm guilty of that, certainly. That's where you're going to have an issue of getting wrapped up in those thoughts, and it's going to take more for you to try and increase that self-worth. Or even if you've got that increased self-worth, then stop worrying. It's different fights. But the thing is, you need to be willing to stand by what you think, what you believe. This is why, even though it was very tempting to begin with to hide behind some kind of cartoon avatar, or it was an interesting idea to try and promote part of a brand by turning myself into a dragon of some description through working out some animation stuff, I decided not to do that. Firstly, because this was just easier to do, but also I don't feel I should have to hide from the things that I'm saying, or the stuff that I'm addressing, both that has been brought to me or things that I've observed. I don't feel that there's any need for me to hide, because I'm not, in my eyes, a lot of these things that I'm talking about may very well be, they may not be apparent to people, but they are, to one extent or another, you know, they're things that are useful. They're things that aren't, in my mind, controversial. The videos that I did on gender are in no way controversial to me, because it's all backed up by just what has happened. It's the fact of the matter, it's the science of the matter. There's no two ways to really start breaking that down, unless you're actively going to start trying to revise science that has been proven again and again and again and again and again, and what most of medical science and so on is built upon, or at least human medical science is built upon. But as a result, though, if you're in a place where you need to stand out, then paint the target on your chest. Be willing to stand out. Be willing to step away from the crowd, step away from the wall, and stop hiding. Because even if you've painted a target on your chest, if you've got the power to make that choice, to step forward, to stand by whatever it is that you have, if you painted a target on your chest just by doing that, then the other people, those people that would take that power away from you, those people that would strip you down, they still need to make a good enough shot to actually hit you. They still need to try and do something to you. This is why there are certain individuals who will generate critique, and they get so much flack in regards to what they say and what they do. But the thing is, the people who tend to attack them, they don't tend to stick around very long. It's a fleeting thing, and they've come out of nowhere, and then they disappear back into obscurity as part of the anonymous masses to attack this person. Whilst that person that has willingly put the target on their chest, they're still earning money. They're still on a platform. You know, there are numerous things that those individuals are still doing. I mean, look at, one of the particularly hated commentators in this country, Katie Hopkins. You know, she gets attacked left, right, and centre about all kinds of things that she says. But as much as I don't like to give credence to any of the things that she says, and I'm not doing that in any way, shape, or form, but she's painted the target on her chest, and so far, very few shots that have been taken at her actually hit. Yeah, she's still got her platform. People still listen to her. She still gets interviewed. She's still earning money. You know, she's still doing all of the things that she's been doing all along, and she's making a living off it. No one has brought her down in a way that isn't so small that she's just been able to brush it off after a time. You know, and as a result, whilst I'm not supporting necessarily the way that she's done it, she's been willing to stand out and make a success of herself by standing out. You need to be able to do the same, and I'm not by any means saying that means every single view that you have should be as vitriolic as hers, but what I'm saying is that if you have the capacity to stand out, paint that target on your chest, move away from everybody else to make you an easier target. Just because you're an easier target doesn't mean the people that you're up against are any kind of good shot. But anyway, yes, those are my thoughts on retaining power, especially personal power, after you've achieved it through being strong, through introspection, through overcoming the easy issue around kind of trying to move towards kind of blaming everything all the time. You know, coming away from that kind of modus operandi. And you know, I'm interested to know what you guys think. You know, when have you been in those situations where you have felt powerful and you've been able to overcome things? You know, how did you maintain it? Because I doubt very much that this is a definitive list. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think. If you found this informative at all, please leave me a like, and otherwise subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care.